Before we begin, take just a breath with me. If stories about quiet connection, emotional rebuilding, and the kind of love that grows in stillness mean something to you, then subscribe to this channel. Because not every life-changing moment comes with fireworks. Some arrive softly. Some don't crash into your world. They settle into it. And sometimes the smallest, most ordinary night becomes the one you remember forever. This is one of those nights. It didn't announce itself. There was no thunder rolling across the Oregon sky. No dramatiken festen. No urgent knock at the door. Just the low, steady hum of the heater pushing warmth through narrow vents, and the gentle ticking of a kitchen clock marking time with patient certainty. Outside, winter held the neighborhood in quiet stillness. Inside, the house stood calm, almost too calm. Ethan Miller stood in the hallway of his modest home, halfway between the living room and the guest bedroom, feeling something he couldn't name. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anticipation. It was that strange pause life sometimes gives you, the second before something shifts. Not loudly, not visibly, but permanently. The house had once been loud. Years ago, it echoed with movement, doors closing, footsteps running down the hall, conversations overlapping in the kitchen. It had been built for noise, built for shared routines and overlapping lives. Now it held only two people who had grown careful with their needs. And sometimes, when two people try very hard not to take up space, the silence becomes heavier than any argument ever could. Ethan pressed a hand over his face, rubbing at exhaustion that had nothing to do with work. He had long ago learned the difference between physical fatigue and emotional weariness. This was the second kind. The kind that settles into your chest and lingers there quietly. That's when he saw her. Claire Dawson was asleep on the couch. A paperback novel lay open against her chest, unread for the past several minutes. The lamp beside her cast a soft golden glow, touching her features carefully, like even the light didn't want to disturb her. Her dark hair fell loosely across her shoulder. Her breathing was steady, but there was something in her expression that felt heavy. Not physically heavy, emotionally. The kind of tired that comes from holding yourself together all day long, so you don't fall apart in front of other people. Ethan stopped walking. For a moment, he simply watched her. Not in a way that crossed boundaries, not in a way that claimed anything. Just witnessing. There's something intimate about seeing someone asleep. The armor is gone. The performance ends. The truth of them is visible. She had been living in his house for 3 months. Just until I figure things out, she had said the day she arrived, standing in his doorway with 2 suitcases and a strength that looked carefully constructed. But heartbreak doesn't follow calendars. Her engagement had ended not with betrayal or shouting, but with something almost worse. Certainty. The quiet realization that love had slipped away without either of them noticing when. No bilin. No dramatic event. Just 2 people waking up one day and recognizing the absence of something that used to fill the room. It had shaken her. Not just her trust in him, but her trust in herself. And Ethan understood that kind of ending. His divorce hadn't exploded either. It hadn't been scandalous. It hadn't even been particularly dramatic. It had simply faded. 2 people slowly becoming polite strangers while still sharing a life. Smiling in public. Coordinating schedules. Sleeping inches apart and miles away. Those endings leave no one to blame. Just silence. Maybe that was why Claire felt safe here. Why their conversations came easily. Why their shared quiet never felt awkward. 2 people, bruised in places no one could see. Ethan reached for the folded blanket draped over the armchair. He stepped toward her carefully, as if sudden movement might disturb something fragile in the air. When he placed the blanket gently over her shoulders, she stirred, murmuring something half-formed and distant. His chest tightened. He could leave her there. Let her sleep. But the angle of her neck would punish her in the morning. And kindness, if it means anything, sometimes shows up in small, practical decisions. She'll sleep better in a bed, he thought. Claire, he said softly. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first. Not startled. Not confused. Just trusting. It's okay, he murmured. Let's get you somewhere more comfortable. She didn't resist. Half asleep, she let him guide her down the hallway. Her steps were slow. Her weight leaned lightly against his arm, not heavy but real, tangible, human. The house felt different as they walked, as if the walls were aware, as if something quiet and important was unfolding, and even the air knew to move gently. He helped her sit on the edge of the guest bed. She exhaled deeply, sinking into the mattress like someone who hadn't realized how tired she truly was. That should have been the end. Blanket tucked in. Light turned off. Door closed. Simple. Safe. But Ethan didn't leave. He sat on the edge of the bed, just for a moment. That moment stretched. Because when you care about someone, stillness becomes dangerous. Your mind wanders. Your heart speaks in whispers you didn't invite. He noticed how the tension had left her face, how sleep softened the lines worry had carved, how her breathing had evened into something peaceful. The house hadn't felt this warm in years. He adjusted the blanket slightly. His fingers brushed her arm barely, but the contact sent something through him. Not desire, not impulse, awareness. Her eyes opened. They met his without alarm. In that silence, something passed between them. Not confusion. Not guilt. Recognition. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Her voice didn't push him away. It offered him an exit. I want to, he replied. The honesty surprised him. Kindness had crossed into something deeper, and he felt it. Not as urgency, but as gravity. He stood, trying to restore distance. Don't disappear tonight, she said softly. He paused at the doorway, because leaving wouldn't undo what had already shifted. The moment had happened. Something had changed. So he stepped back into the room. Not closer, just present. He pulled a chair near the bed, not too near, and sat down. Close enough to show intention, far enough to show respect. And Claire began to talk. About how pretending to be okay is exhausting. About how nighttime amplifies memory. About how silence makes old conversations replay louder than they ever were in reality. Ethan didn't interrupt. He didn't offer solutions. He didn't try to fix anything. He listened. Truly listened. Then he spoke too. About the slow erosion of a marriage. About how quiet endings sometimes hurt more than explosive ones. About waking up next to someone and realizing you no longer know how to reach them. Two people setting down heavy things. At one point, her voice trembled. He almost reached for her hand. But he didn't. Because restraint can be the loudest form of care. Claire, he said gently, just her name. Grounding. She smiled then. A real smile. The kind that forms slowly, like sunlight finding its way through clouds. I feel safe right now, she said. And that changed everything. Safety is not small. Safety is the soil where everything else can grow. Morning came gently, not as a reset but as a continuation. The understanding from the night before walked into the kitchen with them. They moved around each other carefully, not awkwardly, just aware. They talked. Honestly. About fear. About timing. About not rushing into something simply because loneliness makes closeness feel urgent. Feelings had grown quietly, without permission. Now they had to decide what to do with them. Hope scared her. Losing respect scared him. So they chose patience. Life continued. Work schedules. Grocery lists. Shared dinners. But the ordinary moments carried new weight. Awareness sharpens everything. That evening, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, Claire spoke softly. It's strange, she said. How something as simple as being tucked in can change so much. Ethan smiled faintly. It wasn't the blanket, he replied. It was being seen. Nothing dramatic followed. No sudden declarations. No reckless choices. Instead, they created boundaries. Spoke openly about pace. Agreed that honesty would lead, even if it slowed things down. Care chosen slowly grows roots. Weeks passed. One evening, Claire paused in the hallway before heading to her room. Thank you for staying, she said. Not just that night. In general. Ethan answered without hesitation. Staying feels right. And for the first time in years, the house no longer felt like a place people had left. It felt like a place something was beginning. Later, lying in bed, Ethan stared at the ceiling and understood something simple. Love doesn't always arrive like lightning. Sometimes it comes back like warmth returning to a room you forgot was cold. Through listening. Through patience. Through quiet respect. That night hadn't been dramatic. But it had been a beginning. And beginnings built gently often last the longest. If this story stayed with you, if you understand how the smallest moments can shift everything, then you already know what to do. Because some moments don't shout. They whisper. And they change us forever.